Okay, I'm going to try something new. I put up a question box in stories a few weeks ago regarding sex drive and asked for your questions. I have not answered them yet, but apparently I can pull them up on screen and answer your questions about sex drive. Let me see if I can do that. No, it's not letting me. It's a good thing I wrote them down then. So the first question I have is, husband wants to be wanted. I am responsive and have no interest in sexiness, just sex. Help. So what this person means, I think, by responsive is that there's two kinds of drive. Responsive drive and spontaneous drive. And spontaneous drive tends to be the one that we are most familiar with because we are seeing it here, there, and everywhere, in the media, in movies, on TV, in porn. So spontaneous drive is when, somebody might need very little outside stimulation, physical or otherwise, to have sex drive. This is typically thought of as male drive because they have the testosterone in place to feel all of those feelings. Responsive desire, it requires a stimulus to respond to. So oftentimes when somebody has responsive desire, which maybe at one point in your relationship, especially in the beginning for women, spontaneous desire is there. When we're younger, when it's a newish relationship, maybe like 2 years or less. But as we get older, as we have more on our plates, as we have small children, we tend to be more responsive, women do, in our desire. And when I talk about desire, I tend to do it very generally because I'm talking to everybody here, but this can look different from couple to couple to couple, and even some men for sure have more responsive desire. So I am responsive and have no interest in sexiness, just the sex. Help is the question. So it sounds like husband wants to be wanted before that responsive desire is turned on. And so I think some education in this department can be really helpful, but, and this is just such a complicated answer because, if you have spontaneous desire, and we tend to project onto other people who and how we are, and so what it would mean to him if he's projecting how he is onto you, that you don't have the sexiness before it starts, that it might mean you're not attracted to him, it might mean you don't like him, it might mean all this stuff that it maybe just doesn't mean for you. So I think it's important to address the meaning and to know the difference between responsive and spontaneous desire and what all can be causing those differences and getting in the way. So we had the workshop on sex drive. A lot of this is explained in depth. If you're interested in getting more info on that than what I just said, you can comment or DM us Drive, and we'll send you the link to the replay. Somebody else's question was me at night, him in the AM. So differences in timing. And I think that when there's differences in general, it's got to be talked about in a way like if there were, I did the podcast with Dr. Lori Mintz, the sexologist, author, psychologist, emeritus professor, Dr. Lori Mintz, the podcast, How to Talk About It, the episode on Drive, episode 2. And she suggests that we talk about, figuring out how to get on the same page with desire in the same way we might talk about ordering a pizza. Like, he likes pineapple, you do not. Like, what's the compromise here? And how do we figure out a day and time that works for both of you? And it might, I don't want the conversation stopping with, well, I like it in the night, and well, I like it in the morning, and like the end. It's like, okay, then what's the plan? Like, what's the plan? And maybe the person who likes it at night, and the person who likes it in the AM, I'm assuming there's not a whole lot of energy left for that person who likes it in the AM, not a whole lot of energy left in the tank in the evening. And so one thing to think about is how could we get the other person more energy in the evening on the days that we want that to happen, and vice versa, or how could we get this person more energy in the morning? And that might mean breaks, that might mean alone time, that might mean time with friends, that might mean time to get things off our to-do list. So I'm always thinking about like not how to make somebody they're not, but how to get them what they need so that they can feel the way that they want to feel. Okay? Next question. Female, but my male partner doesn't want sex as much as I do. We talk about it, but it's still hard. Yeah. Sex is an emotionally laden subject. It's very easy to take personally. And it is a tough thing to talk about. And we tend to attach a lot of meaning around what it means when somebody doesn't want to be intimate physically with us. And so I think a first step would be getting really clear on what you think that means and having a conversation about that meaning. You know, there was a time in our relationship, lots of young kids in our home, when I said to my husband, you know, I think you think it means when I don't have drive or it feels like it's at the bottom of my list, I think you think it means that I don't like you or I'm not attracted to you. Or I said to him, you could be Brad frickin' Pitt, or who's my other one? Lenny Kravitz. I don't know anymore. He's been working out in leather pants on the internet. I just don't know about that. But you could be Brad Pitt, and it still would not. It's not you. It's not you. It's all this stuff that is burying my drive. Okay, so getting more understanding around that can be helpful. Lots of other things can be helpful too. We talk about a lot of that in the workshop. Message us or comment drive if you want a link to the replay. Next question is male, and if you have a question, you can comment a question and I will answer it. I'm answering some questions that I have received previously. So male partner asking for tips to have some kind of consistency while partner has a tired and low pregnancy. So I'm guessing that means low energy pregnancy. Yeah. Oftentimes I'm encouraging the person with the higher drive to be very curious about what the other person needs to want to more. And just hearing tired or low energy, that gives me some clues about what that person might need. But just striking up a conversation like, hey, I know you're tired. I know you don't have a lot of energy. What do you think you need? Do you have a sense of what you need to want to more? And to know that like the difference in answers, if somebody has a lower drive, I wouldn't be asking the question. I don't ask them the question, how often do you want to have sex? I ask the question, how often if I could make your drive anything, how often would you want to have sex? Because those are, especially if somebody has responsive desire, those are really different answers. Two young kids. Will I ever want to have sex again? It sounds like this person's drive is not spontaneous. So spontaneous desire is like thinking about and or wanting sex when it's not even a possibility. And with young kids in the home, I don't expect women to feel that way. I tell women, our goal for you with young kids in the home or with never-ending to-do lists, our goal for you is not to ignite your loins to be on fire. Okay? That would be too high of an expectation. My goal is to get your relationship and communication to a place where you want to. Oh, look, when I do this, it puts a little thumbs up bubble. I want to get you to a place where you want to. I want you getting to a place where you understand that your desire might be more responsive and not so spontaneous, so you can stop judging yourself for that. And like I would have the question for this person, it sounds like getting there is hard, but how is it once it gets going? Because if it's not fun once it gets going, a lot of people with low drive will say, getting there is hard, but it's good once we get going. I'm into it once we get going. Oh, you have responsive desire. Okay. But getting there is hard, and it's not good once we get going is a whole other thing. So that would be something else that we have to figure out that I don't have information on in this question to know how to address that. But yeah, 2 young kids, will I ever want to have sex again? I think the more important question for you is, do you want to? And if you don't want to, what's getting in the way of that? I just want to get you to a place where you can be like, okay, in this moment I want to. I can't quite figure out how to get there. Oh, you might have responsive desire. We might have to give you a stimulus before you have desire. So what we see on TV a lot is a lot of people being sexy before there's a stimulus. Then there's a huge part of the population who needs the stimulus to be sexy. So we need to flip the script on that. But it's not something that we necessarily see that much in the media. Okay, any other questions? I don't see any. Thanks for joining me. Give you guys just a second. So we've got the podcast on Sex Drive. You can comment or DM podcast here, and we'll send you the link to the podcast on Sex Drive. We also did a workshop where we talked more in depth about to-dos. If you want more beyond the podcast, message us. Podcast for the podcast, and message us Drive for the workshop. Okay? All right. Thanks for hanging out with me today.